Hi, welcome to live stream Yoga with Louise, tips and cues to keep you safe and strong on the mat. Today we are opening up our energy centers, getting our chakras spinning or vibrating with energy. Because our practice is based loosely on a combination of the Tibetan rites and Kundalini Yoga, I want you to give yourself a few dynamic rounds of each movement pattern before continuing on to the next movement pattern. As always, play where you're comfortable, modify when you need to, rest when you need to. You ready? Let's hit the mat. We're going to begin today's practice standing more or less in the middle of the mat. Find a comfortable samasthiti, feet stacking in parallel underneath your hips. Starting to look for a beautiful sense of length through the entire body. Fist your hands, bring the two thumbs together, and then extend the arms in front of you and start to stare at your thumbnails, giving yourself a few quiet trataka moments of centering. Start to lengthen your breath work. Start to still your mind. Begin to focus body and mind. Staring at your thumbnails, nothing else. Allow the rest of the room to just fade away. When you're ready, you're going to open up your arms into a T-frame. Arms long and reaching, hands at about shoulder height. And you're going to start giving me half a helicopter spin to one side, bending through the back leg and then coming back to center before you take it to the other side. You're going to start moving dynamically side to side, keeping your arms long and reaching, allowing your head and your neck to follow the trajectory of your body as you spin side to side. Keeping belly to spine the whole time. Then start to drop one hand or both hands, tap opposite hand to shoulder as you keep that spinning motion going through the body. Tapping the opposite shoulder. Now begin to tap the opposite bum. So you're dropping your hands a little bit lower, maybe cupping around the trunk to tap opposite hand to bottom, waking up the energy in the booty, in the pelvis, in the sacral area. Come to stillness along the midline. Float your hands into Jupiter Mudra by interlacing your fingers, bringing your thumbs together and extending the index fingers out in front of you. Bring Jupiter Mudra in front of your heart center. Take a big breath in, making a tall steeple frame with your index fingers towards the sky, and then back down to your start position in front of your heart. You're going to rinse and repeat, reaching for the ceiling, and then bringing your whole Jupiter steeple in front of your heart center. Maybe keeping your eye trained on a focal point on the wall in front of you so that you're almost looking through your hands and your arms that keep extending overhead and then coming back and centering in front of your heart. You're going to stay here with this steeple. Or if you're feeling good, you're going to come into a full circling or spinning motion through the body. Opening up your arms into T, you're going to start moving clockwise. And you're going to give me at least 10 spins, making sure that you're bringing your eye back to a focal point on the wall in front of you every time you complete a full spin. Make sure that you don't make your spin too fast. And if at any time you need to center yourself, come back to the Trataka centering that we began our class with. Looking at your thumbnails in front of you while you stand up nice and tall. This little spin is so beautiful to just wake up all 7 chakras or energy systems in the body. Come to stillness, find your Trataka hands, stare at your thumbnails, nothing else. Give yourself a few quiet moments of centering. Your focus should be so honed on those thumbnails that eventually the 2 thumbnails start looking like one. You could almost imagine maybe the flame of a candle and you staring right at it. When you feel centered and the room stops to spin, we're going to begin our next movement pattern. Maybe starting by just relaxing the arms at your side. We're going to sit back into an imaginary chair. So bump the weight back into your bum and your heels as you float the arms in front. And then as you come back to your standing frame, I want you to draw one knee up towards your waistline and then start alternating side to side. Take a seat, and then every time you stand up, draw one knee in, using a strong pull-up from the pelvic floor towards your waistline. Maybe starting to play with a nice active breath pattern. Let's do one more draw on each side, then we'll start the next movement pattern. Stand up nice and tall, keep the arms relaxed at your side as you hinge forward, coming into a long tabletop line through your spine, and then inhale to stand back up. You're going to rinse and repeat, just focusing on not only the long line through the neck and the spine, but also the delicious stretch that you're getting up the back of the legs. Exhale as you lean forward. Inhale to come up nice and tall. Arms are just soft at your side the whole time. Remember to use your breath and try to keep the weight equal on the balls and the heels of your feet as you're moving. Setting a rhythm of your own. Let's do 2 more, and then we'll bring it down onto the knees from here. So the next time you find yourself standing, drop down to the knees. If you need additional padding, you can place maybe a hand towel underneath the knees. And we're going to start with the feet soft and relaxed, arms at your side. We'll bring it into a supported camel. So think of cupping around your bum, starting to curve through the spine as you bump the hips forward over the knees. Find your camel line first. And then when you're ready to come out of your camel, we're going to use our locks. So as you start to come back into a kneeling frame, give me more of a hollow belly, a rounded back. Pull up from the pelvic floor, the Mula Bandha. Squeeze the diaphragm in the Uddiyana Bandha and apply the chin lock, the Jalandhara Bandha. Then open back out, first releasing the chin, then the diaphragm, then the pelvic floor. And then pull up from the pelvic floor through the diaphragm floor, through the chin lock. You're going to rinse and repeat, finding a slow rhythm of your own. Playing not only with the camel, but the employing of the locks as you come out of the camel. You can almost think of this as a kneeling cat-cow. do one more. We're going to find our way from here into a staff seat at the top end of the mat with enough room to come down on the back. So sweep the legs around, find your staff seat. Feet hip-width distance apart, arms relaxed at your side. You're going to give me a nice reach through the hands as you sit up nice and tall in staff pose, Dandasana. And then sweep the hands behind you, either giving me a flat hand or maybe a fisted hand if you like. And you're going to bend the knees, ground the feet, push up into a little tabletop line, and then reverse the pattern back to starting, sitting up nice and tall, reaching the arms in front. Then sweeping the arms behind you as you bend the knees and pike your belly up to the sky. Start to find a steady rhythm and give yourself at least 10 oscillations between the two frames. Starting to look for that innate rhythm as you find the movement pattern on your mat. Always working with the breath, not being afraid to experiment with your breath cycle, but make sure that you keep inhaling and exhaling in unison with your movement so that you keep bringing fresh oxygen to the muscles as you play. Let's do one more round and then we'll end in the staff seat. Find your staff seat. Float your hands once more into Jupiter Mudra. Interlace your fingers. Bring the index fingers together. Cross at the thumbs. Starting up nice and tall and making sure that you're keeping your Jupiter Mudra at about shoulder height. You're going to give me an L lean forward and an L lean back. And you're going to keep playing with that seesawing movement forward and backwards. Almost trying to reach past your toes on the front lean and then leaning past your tailbone on the back lean. Maybe using that beautiful audible breath pattern. Maybe a shh sound. Keep your feet active. Let's do two more. Then relax the arms at your side. You're going to start to L lean back and you're going to drop down onto your bent elbows. So using the forearms and the palms to support your frame without collapsing your back line into the mat, you're going to think chest to sky, maybe bringing the feet flush along the midline of the body. Keeping an active brace in the feet, you're going to start giving me a single leg lift on the right, hovering the foot just off the floor as it comes down. And then not bringing it too high, maybe about shoulder height or hip height at the highest. Let's do 10 on one side. And then we'll change to do 10 on the opposite side. Rinse and repeat or double, lifting and lowering both legs to hovering in unison, giving yourself at least 10 repetitions of this combined movement. You're going to try to end for me with the legs raised. Then give me a fall back, sliding the arms alongside the body and come into a little U hold, holding. And then relax down to the mat. Make sure you haven't come up off the mat. So if you need to wiggle down, you're going to bend your knees, ground your feet. You're going to float your hands overhead to the mat behind you. Start with a neutral spine, a little bit of space between your lower back and the mat. Then tilt your pelvis to the 12 o'clock position, imprint your lower back. Start to find a little contraction in the core. Allow that contraction to bleed your head, your shoulders, your feet and your legs off the mat, bringing your legs into table and hovering the arms alongside your body. And then inhale to float everything back down to the mat. Exhale to scoop and peel up. Inhale to bring it down. See if you can give yourself at least 20 rounds. So you're going to feel quite a lot of work through the core here. Maybe using a nice active breath pattern. Last one. And reconnected to the mat. Sweep the arms alongside the body, either palms down alongside your body, or you can tuck your hands palms down underneath your bum, forging a little diamond frame between the two hands to support your lower back. We're going to work a modified double straight leg stretch. So you're going to float both of your legs up to the sky, maybe giving me a soft brace into the feet today. Let's play small. So you're going to give me a halfway drop, halfway to the mat. Come back to your start position. Then open up the legs into a little V, close, and drop back down. So you're going to give me a drop, a come back, and a V. And you're going to give yourself at least 20 rounds of this pattern. Going to call that 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that's halfway, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Last one, we're going to bring it into a bridge line from here. Reground your feet to the mat, but open up your legs into parallel. So feet and knees hip width distance apart. We'll give ourselves at least 10 dynamic bridges, starting in a neutral spine. Tilt your pelvis to the 12 o'clock position. Start articulating up into a bridge line, bleeding your belly up towards the sky, disconnecting your back line from the mat. And then roll right back down to your start position. So it's a rolling bridge up and down, making sure that you're working that tilt through the pelvis and that articulation through the spine to bleed up and to bleed back down. The whole while ensuring that your feet and your knees stay hip width distance apart, almost as if you had a little elastic band, keeping them that width the whole time. Find almost a soft rolling up and rolling down action. If you need a little bit of a visual imagery, you can imagine your spine as a long string of pearls that you are picking up off the floor as you roll up. and then dropping back down on the floor one beat at a time. You could even close your eyes and make this rolling bridge almost a soft, meditative like movement on the mat. Keep your breathing long, soft, and even. Let's do one more dynamic bridge, then we'll work a spinal roll and we'll marry it maybe with a boat. So as you complete your last one, think rolling like a ball, but then open up your feet and your knees and keep them about hip-width distance apart. So you set up more in a rocker-like frame. You're going to brace your hands behind your thighs. Maybe you can keep a soft brace into the feet if you like, or you can just keep them soft. You're going to nod your chin to your chest, hollow out your belly, round out your back, rock up, maybe coming into a soft extension through the legs, and then hollow to rock. As you come back up, think straighter spine as you come into the boat. Weight just off your tailbone, maybe extending the legs, or maybe you just want to hold the table line and you just want to stay with the rock here, pausing in your table before you rock back again. Give yourself a few dynamic rounds of this movement pattern. Making sure that you're hollowing out your belly, rounding out your back, and not going further than the shoulder blades. You don't want to bruise the spine as you roll back. Let's do one more, and then we'll find our way from here into a 4-point kneeling frame on the mat. Sweep the legs underneath you and set yourself up for a few dynamic rounds of cat-cows, and we'll use our bandhas or our locks today. Set up your 4-point kneeling frame first, hands stacking underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips. Inhale to prepare, giving me a hollow back and a rounded belly, taking your chin and your bum bones to the sky. Then as you reverse the frame, giving me hollow belly, rounded back. Pull up the pelvic floor, the Mula Bandha, squeeze in the diaphragm, the Uddiyana Bandha, apply the chin lock, the Jalandhara Bandha. And then unlock in succession to come back into the cow frame. Start to move at a maybe 1 to 2 inhalation to exhalation ratio, so holding your cat a little bit longer as you employ all 3 locks. So if you're inhaling for 3, you're going to double up, you're going to exhale for 6. Maybe your breath capacity is greater than that. Maybe you're playing 4 to 8, or 5 to 10, or even 6 to 12. Make sure that you're keeping the weights on your hands and your knees equal, so you're not rocking the body back and forth. You're holding your frame steady as you play in Chakravakkasana, cat-cow. Then you might elect to stay here in your cat-cow or start to look for more inversion work. Coming to stillness somewhere between your cat and your cow in a long tabletop line. You're going to tuck your toes under. You're going to bleed up into a down dog, piking your bum up towards the sky. And then think table again as you softly tap your knees to the floor. And then start to oscillate between the down dog stretch and your tabletop tap to the floor. Strong connection to your Muladhara chakra. So you're thinking strong core control to bring your knees down with control to the mat so that you don't bang or smack those knees into the mat. And if you are feeling the wrists, maybe you want to even play with a fisted line and mix it up a little bit today, maybe giving me knuckles on the floor and wrists looking into the center line. So you can play it up if you like. Every time you hit the down dog frame, you give me a nice exhale and you try to get as much anchorage as you can through the heels of your feet. Let's do maybe 2 more cycles through. And of course, you're working in a rhythm that works for you. And in your tabletop position, keep your toes tucked under behind you. As you come into a high kneeling frame with your shoulders, your hips, your knees stacked in one long line, you're going to float the arms out in a T frame. Your palms are looking into center. You're going to start with a neutral spine, so allowing for that natural S curve in your spine. We're going to hug a tree. As you hug the tree, you're going to think of forming a cat-like frame. So you're going to tuck your pelvis to the 12 o'clock position. You're going to almost hollow out your belly, round out your back, and then open back up. So think of this as a kneeling cat-cow. Hug your tree. Trying to keep those arms floating at about shoulder height so you're not dropping the line as you play. All right, let's do 2 more. Then we'll start to play with a down dog and an up dog. So working a progression on the previous movement pattern. Find your way back to 4-point kneeling. Extend the legs as you float the bum up to the sky, coming into the down dog. Make sure you've got a fair amount of distance between the feet and the hands so that you've got enough room to plank and then come through the plank. So find your plank, start to straighten up the body line, and then bump your hips through the plank line, giving me a strong up dog. So there's no hanging and collapsing. Push the mat away, embrace your core, and then start to move between the down dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana, and the up dog, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. If you find that the up dog is too much for your back today, you could elect to just play with a plank and a down dog, or you could repeat the down dog and the tabletop tap. So move where you're comfortable, but strong through the core, wherever it is you decide to play. Exhale as you hit the down dog, and then inhale for your next movement. Let's do 2 more flow throughs before we find our way back into a kneeling frame on the mat. So when you're ready, drop down to the knees. Keep those toes tucked under. Start with the hands on the top of your thighs as we bring it into a camel lean, trying to keep a long, almost plank-like line through the body. You're going to lean off the center line, floating the arms up to shoulder height, and then come back to your start position. Give yourself anywhere between 15 and 20 repetitions of this movement. Keep that long plank-like stretch through the top of your thighs, through the lower belly. Don't drop your bum towards your heels. Last one. We're going to find our way from here back into 4-point kneeling, and we'll play with a few modified dynamic chaturangas or fallen star. So you can relax the feet behind you as you set up your 4-point kneeling frame on the mat. And we'll work a double oil rigger. So you're going to keep your feet on the mat, or you could float them off the mat. As you bend through the elbows, keeping them hugging in towards your ribs, maybe coming halfway to the floor, and then back up. And then try to give me at least a few more repetitions, trying to bring your body progressively closer to the floor each time so that you can feel that loading through the arms. Anywhere between 5 and 10 repetitions, either just staying at the halfway mark or trying to make the movement more challenging for yourself by bringing your chin and your chest progressively closer to the floor on each round. Of course, you're keeping belly to spine the whole time, and you're trying to make this look as graceful as you can. You're going to end on the belly. As soon as you have connected the belly to the floor, you're going to relax the legs behind you, making sure that your elbows are still tucked in, maybe fingertips just in front of your shoulder line, and we'll work some dynamic cobras, Bhujangasana. Begin with your forehead connected to the mat. Then think of starting to trace a nodding pattern by finding a little marble underneath your nose, peeling the head and the chest off the mat, stopping just before your bottom rib disengages, and then nodding back down. Start to trace a cobra yes nod up and down as you push softly off the mat, just pressing softly off the palms, keeping the elbows reaching long for the back of your mat as you play with that yes nod through the head. Giving yourself a few dynamic run-through. Feel those back muscles working. Maybe ending in a small cobra hold. Feet are still softly connected to the mat. And then when you start to peel back down from your chest lift, begin to extend the arms on the mat in front of you, keeping a parallel line, so arms more or less shoulder width apart. Take a breather on the mat. And then we're going to find our way into a little Superman line, and we'll play with a little freestyle swim. So think of that imaginary marble underneath your nose. As you start to roll it away, thinking about coming into a cobra, but stopping with your bottom 3 or 4 ribs nice and heavy into the mat. Lock that height in. And then see if you can just float your arms and your legs an inch or 2 off the floor. So a longer line through the back, And then start to swim freestyle vigorously, dropping the opposite arm and leg up and down, trying to keep your ears framed on either side, and pretend that you're freestyle swimming in the water. And you're going to give yourself at least 20 seconds of this fluttering like emotion through the arms and the legs. Let's call that 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, end in your Superman line. Reach, keep that hover, so you're reaching for the wall in front of you, and you're reaching for the wall behind you while keeping your bottom 4 ribs and your nose hovering just off the floor. Then sweep the arms alongside the body, palms looking up, and bleed your whole body down to the mat, taking a recovery breath or two. If you need a release through the neck, exhale as you drop onto one cheek. Give yourself a moment or two here. Inhale as you bring your forehead back to the middle. And then exhale to drop on the other cheek, giving yourself a moment or two here. Inhale, come back to center. We're going to work some dynamic locusts. So you're going to give me a synchronized chest, arm, and leg lift to come into the locust. Pretend you've got a little marble underneath your nose. Start to roll it away. Peel your chest off, peel your arms off, peel your legs off, coming into a slight bow-like frame. Then drop everything seamlessly back down to the mat. And give me a few dynamic lifts into the locust. And then sweep back down to the mat. When you find that almost hollow frame in the locust, pause there for a moment or two and just try to reach as long as you can through the tips of your toes, through the crown of your head, through the tips of your fingers. Start to establish a little rhythm of your own. Exhaling as you peel up into the locust, and then inhaling as you float back down to your recovery position. Give me maybe 2 more rounds of this dynamic locust Salangasana. And then when you've completed your last round, reconnect your forehead to the mat. Bend your elbows, place them alongside your bosom. Keep your feet relaxed and in parallel, and push back into a modified child Balasana. Arms long and extended on the mat in front of you. Pause here in this stretch. And then let's bring it to a kneeling up dog from here. Come through 4-point kneeling, but keep strong through the arms and the core as you bring the weight forward over your wrists, coming into a kneeling version of an up dog. And then push back into child. Start to play dynamically between your child and your kneeling up dog. Looking for a strong core, looking for strong arms as you're playing. And of course, moving mindfully with your breath. Maybe a nice, delicious exhale as you push back into child. And then a beautiful inhale and an expansion through the chest as you come into your kneeling up dog. Find your rhythm. Moving your body with your breath. Let's give ourselves maybe 3 more rounds before we find our way into a kneeling seat in Thunderbolt Vajrasana. So when you're ready, after your last round, the next time you start to push back into child, think of bringing the knees and the feet closer together, sitting back bum to heel if you can, or you could just come to a high kneel, but with the legs sandwiched together along the midline of the body. Pause here for a moment, just allowing for neutral spine. And then if you are in the full expression of Vajrasana, think of how the weight of your bum feels sitting onto the heels of your feet. See if you can subtly shift that pattern, let's slide the left leg out in front of us and readjust the weight of your bottom so that it now feels like your bum cheeks are wrapping around the one heel that you're still seated on. If you find that you're dropping off to one side, maybe take a block or a cushion and just tuck that underneath your bum. Once you've found your modified seat in Vajrasana, you're going to keep your fingertips softly connected to the floor. As you give me an L lean forward, so you're thinking long stretch through the spine and you're trying to hook your chin over your toes and then come back to a nice straight seat. So just a few leans forward. You're going to feel a delicious stretch up that extended left leg. Exhale as you lean forward and then inhale as you come back. Giving yourself at least 10 forward leans in this modified head to knee, Janu Sirsasana. Let's do one more before we find our way from here into a high kneeling frame on the mat. So the leg that's extended in front of you, you're going to sweep it back. You're going to bring your knees back into parallel. You're going to find your high kneeling frame on the mat, or you could keep that narrow stance if you're able to. So think knees and feet still squeezing together. You're going to have the arms at your side, palms looking in the same orientation as your face. You're going to trace a big circle with the arms overhead on an inhale. You're going to come down in active prayer on the exhale along the midline, stopping in front of your heart, and then you're going to reverse that pattern. Inhaling this time as you open up, as you think steeple, and then exhaling as you circle. Then reverse your breath pattern. Inhale to circle. Exhale to come down in active prayer, pressing into those palms. Inhaling as you make a steeple frame. Exhaling as you circle back to your start position. Let's do one more round like that. Inhale to circle. Exhale to come down in active prayer. Inhale for steeple. Exhale to circle back to your start position. Sit back down in thunderbolt. Think of the weight coming down on both heels. See what that feels like. Just holding a neutral spine. Looking for a few moments of quiet control. Then try to maintain your sense of balance and centering as you subtly shift one leg out in front, and you can keep your hands on the floor and then readjust your bum on that back leg. Keeping both sets of fingertips on the mat, you're going to give me an L lean forward and an L lean back. Trying to keep the longest spine that you can. So think of that delicious stretch that you're going to begin feeling in your lower back and then bleeding all the way towards your shoulder line. It's a nice long line through the back and the spine. Thinking of trying to hook your chin over your big toe as you lean forward every time. Then finding your way from here into a high kneeling frame, either legs in parallel or keeping that narrow stance of the knees and the feet together. You're going to circle on the inhale. You're going to exhale as you come down in active prayer. Then reverse your breath pattern. Inhale as you think steeple. Exhale as you circle. You're going to give yourself at least 3 dynamic flow throughs of this circular pattern. Moving with your breath. And you could use this as an opportunity to close the eyes Take your focus in and make it a soft, meditative moment on the mat. Make this your last flow through, ending with your hands in heart center in front of your heart. Either electing to stay here in a high kneel or bringing yourself back down to Vajrasana, sitting back on the heels as we bring it back to Prataka. So ending our practice where we began. You're going to fist the hands, thumbs looking up to the sky. You're going to extend the arms long and lengthened at about shoulder height, maybe a little bit higher. And you're just going to stare at your thumbnails for a few quiet moments. Allow everything else around you to just fade away and make your focus those two thumbnails. You should be staring at those thumbnails so intently that after a moment or two, maybe it even looks like those two thumbnails are merging into one flame and you're just staring right through it. Totally focused, concentrating your energy. Stay here, maybe extending your Jataka portion of today's practice, or maybe this is where you end off today's practice by just bringing your hands together in prayer, taking a moment to thank yourself for making time for yourself. Namaste to you. Thank you so much for coming up and joining me today. Hope you enjoyed. Till next time, keep it light.